Hey guys, welcome back to Heiko Prints. I have another video for you today that revolves around the Sovol SV06. The Sovol SV06 has been a really popular printer. It still is. It's easy to tinker with, to modify, to clipperize. Even Sovol sells their own version of a clipper screen that just hooks up to it and turns the SV06 that was released before the clipper craze into a full-fledged clipper printer. Due to its budget-minded construction and design, it does have a couple flaws. And one of the flaws is that your gantry that holds your tool head up can get out of alignment. And different people have come up with different solutions to that problem. Even the original firmware, the Marlin firmware, had a function that would align the gantry by running the gantry all the way up against the vertical crossbar and realign the two Z-axis steppers left and right and bring the gantry into parallel to the bed. That's at least the idea, the concept, that you want your gantry that holds your tool head and which forms your X-axis, so to speak, parallel to your bed. So it doesn't need to be level to earth, to ground, to floor, but to your bed. Other people have used methods where they put soup cans on the printer bed, and then when the steppers are disabled, you can individually move your Z-axis steppers until the gantry sits down on a couple soup cans, or they printed little plastic spacers that you put in between your bed and your gantry, and then level your or align your gantry to parallel with your bed. That way, there are some cool ideas where you have some markers next to the couplers of your Z-axis steppers. Or the more fancy version would be having two Z-axis steppers that actually are controlled by individual drivers on your motherboard. There's all kinds of different ways of doing the same thing, bringing the X-axis of your printer to be parallel to your bed, which is absolutely necessary, or else you will always have problems with your first layers, with your print quality, with your part adhering to the bed. And that's all caused or partially caused by your gantry not being parallel to your bed. My approach is the mechanical approach. I'm just keeping the two Z-axis steppers and lead screws completely from ever getting out of alignment by adding a timing belt in between those two lead screws. And I've had a few different iterations of that. I started out with a timing belt at the top of the printer, in between the two lead screws, with a huge belt tensioner, which then affected print volume and how high your tool head could go before it would crash into this belt tensioner. Then I slimmed that down and made it much smaller and came up with a version where the belt tensioner was barely a problem. But then I finally found a method of putting the whole timing belt underneath the printer, completely out of the way. I'm using the original stock lead screws again. And I just replaced the two steppers. Very inexpensive. I think the two steppers were like 35 bucks from AliExpress. And a timing belt, $5-6 off of Amazon. And a couple 3D printed parts. And today I want to show you this whole setup, explain my rationale behind it, and let you decide. This here is my version. It works flawlessly. I haven't had to check gantry alignment with my bed in months. I haven't touched it, and that it hasn't gone out of alignment is always verified by a bed mesh. And so I haven't had to touch this in months. It literally stays parallel to my bed and never moves. So I never have to use any spacers. I never have to use my inductive sensor to find out if my gantry is still parallel to the bed. It's just solid. And this is such a simple modification and very inexpensive. And it's more or less plug and play. All right, guys, so here we go. SV06 in front of you. Don't get distracted. I know there are lots of modifications that have been done to this SV06 over the year that I have owned it now. But let's not get distracted. Let's focus on just the synchronization or timing belt that I put in between the two Z-axis lead screws. So overall, this looks all pretty stock. These are actually the stock lead screws. I reprinted the motor mounts because I found out that those two motor mounts that came from Sovol, they were not really square. So the little motor shaft that sticks out here was always leaning forward. It was tilted forward and wasn't aligning perfectly with the lead screws here. Ever since I reprinted this, this model here is a little reinforced, has a little bit of reinforcement here on the side. It's perfectly square. The shaft coming out of the motor aligns perfectly with the lead screw, and all the misalignment issues that the printer had before are now in the past. Also, what you can see here are different steppers. So here is a stock, this is called a 4234 stepper. So it's, I think it's 42 millimeters square here up top and 34 millimeters tall. And this was the one that came here off the machine. The ones that are installed left and right now are 4240 dual shaft steppers. So it has a shaft coming out, this little shaft here at the top, and it also has a shaft coming out the bottom, which then with a little bit taller rubber feet here under my printer, printed in TPU, made the machine a little higher, gives me a little bit more ground clearance, and now we have a timing belt running under there. So you see the timing belt going from left to right. Here, let me fold down the camera. No, it's still in the way, I guess. Let's see if we can get this out of your eyeballs a little bit. So now I have a timing belt down there, and this timing belt, it's a standard 6 millimeter belt that you can buy off of Amazon. I think this one here is a 690 millimeter belt, and you see those two gray little wheels there and there. Those are tensioners that don't really need to be attached anywhere. It's just a round little sprocket that goes in there and spreads the timing belt apart a little bit and gives it a little bit of tension. I'm going to flip this up now so we can see this from underneath. So here we go. Yeah, it's a 690. It says that on here. It's a 2GT 6 millimeter belt. I bought the appropriate pulleys for it. I will put links down below for you guys so you know what to buy if you want to do the same thing. I made some covers that go over the bottom shaft and the little pulley and covers up, you know, the spinny bits down here. I did that on both sides. I have models for that on printables. These little pulleys here. Let me see, I have another one. Let me see if I find it. So here's another one of these little pulleys, tight tensioners, so to speak. It's not a pulley really. It's kind of like an idler pulley. It just goes in between here like that, and it holds the two sides of the belt a little apart, and by doing so it creates some tension. And now I'm just going to spin one side, the stepper, a little bit so you can see what happens here down below. So it's all just moving in unison, synchronized to each other. And this is really very simple. The stepper motors, the 4240s here left and right, they fit on there just like the stock. Just like the stock. It's just a little taller and just tall enough. Here, let me swing you around a little bit. So just tall enough that the stepper literally ends where the bottom of the aluminum extrusion is here, and that the second piece of shaft here at the bottom just sticks out right down below the printer. Both shafts are 5 millimeter top and bottom. So just like this one here, the original top shaft is also a 5 millimeter. And so you just need to buy pulleys that fit the belt and the 5 millimeter shaft. The size of the pulley, I just went with, I think it was a 20-tooth pulley. You can, of course, go larger. There's no pros or cons to it. Like I said, this here is not really transferring all kinds of loads or all kinds of torque. It really doesn't, because the two steppers, they literally do the same thing. They always get the same signal at the same time. So they always move in unison. As long as they are energized, the computer will always tell them, you know, turn right 5 steps, and then this one will also turn right 5 steps, or turn left 5 steps, and this will turn left as well. So they are always working in unison as well. This here really only holds it synchronized and steady when the printer is off or when it turns back on, or whatever the reason might be why the gantry goes out of alignment. And it's really absolutely no maintenance down here. You don't have to tighten this to any specific tension. You don't have to worry about that it's interfering with anything because it's down below. So you have the full high print volume. The belt doesn't get in the way. And to put those covers on top of the steppers here and the pulleys, I just needed some longer screws. I think the original ones were M3 by 35 and I used M3 by 40. Goes right back in there and bolts on just like before. Hey guys, just a quick add-on. I forgot to mention that. The plastic down here, the plastic cover that I made, I held on with screws that go right into the stepper. The original screws that are screwed in from the bottom here are M3 by 35, and I think I used M3 by 40, but I think I cut them down to M3 by 38 to make this all work. And then the second thing that I wanted to mention is, yeah, this is the original stepper. And the original stepper shaft is 18 millimeters long up here. And the stepper shaft that comes out of this new stepper is 22 millimeters long. So this might cause a length issue. Here on my printer, as you can see, I have a hole up here. I actually have bearings in here. So this is completely aftermarket. If you would use, let's grab it real quick, the original caps, they don't have a hole. So if you suddenly have a stepper shaft down there that's 4 millimeters longer, you're gonna have an issue up there. So you can either, you know, drill a hole in there, right there, or print another version of this. So there are so many different aftermarket printable pieces on printables to make this all work. Here in this case, I actually went a step further. I don't have the plastic cross member up here anymore. I have an aluminum extrusion, and this is all, you know, this here is actually a model that I kind of modified to hold a filament sensor up there. You know, here's the other one. So you guys just have to figure this out. The shaft is a little longer. You could potentially also cut the shaft down by 4 millimeters. It's also possible. I just want to let you guys know. All right, that's it. And that really fixed the gantry not being parallel to my print bed issue for me. This is already the third or fourth iteration of me having a synchronization belt between the two Z-axes. So this is going to stay that way. This is not going to be modified anymore. It works absolutely flawlessly. So I just turned on my printer. Now we're just going to do a quick little home here. Home, all axes. You just saw both Z-axes, or both lead screws moving together. They're continuously doing that. And now we're just going to move the Z up and down. And the belt down there just happily spins along those two little tensioners. They do their job, keeping a little bit of tension on the belt so that it doesn't come off the pulley. All right, guys, so that was it. That is my modification, how I keep my gantry from going out of parallel with the bed. Just cost me 2 stepper motors, a belt, and a couple printed parts. And I am really very happy with the result. And it's much more a turn on and print operation now. Before, I always had to make sure the gantry is still parallel and do one of the many methods that are out there. I will potentially link to a couple of videos of things that other people do so that you just get an idea what you can do to get your gantry parallel. And now here in this video, you saw what I did. If you saw any other modification on my printer that kind of sparked your interest and you want to know more about it, just ask down in the comment section. Alrighty guys, that is it. I appreciate you watching and I will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.